Let's move on now to the Pittsburgh Steelers in our 2023 free agency review. But before we do that, this is Ryan and I's last series when it comes to the free agency section of the 2023 offseason, which means there will be a lot more content once we pivot to the 2023 season and previewing picks and predictions, etc. So what does that mean for you? A lot more content around the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up this offseason. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when we create new content. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, crushed this free agency. They crushed the draft. They addressed and got great players to come in and help out, kind of build around these young skill position players. And just in general, I think Mike Tomlin's going to get his 17th season without a losing record this year.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, what they're doing in Pittsburgh, to me, they're always consistently one of the best drafting teams. They're always pretty well coached, right? And I look at it and like they're making all the right moves. So let's just go ahead and get into their roster and we can start breaking down, I think, what this team will look like in 2023, right? So to me, big addition, Broderick Jones, most athletic left tackle in the class. I think if they can coach him up, I think he's a Trent Williams type prospect, right? He's just still really raw, right? But he's, again, the most athletic tackle that was in this draft class, right? Played in the SEC, he performed very well at a very high level of competition. And I think he instantly comes in and he's a starting left tackle for them day one.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree. Because then you're going to pair him up now again with Isaac Seumalo, who come from Philadelphia, one of the better guards in the league, and is really improving this overall. This was a liability for the Steelers. And now, to me, you know who I think benefits the most from this is their 2021 first-round pick, Najee Harris. This is going to be the best offensive line I think that he's had here. This is going to be the –
Not Kenny Pickett. Sorry, I thought you were going to say Kenny Pickett.
Oh, no, I said 2021. It's going to help out Kenny Pickett as well, don't get me wrong. But Najee Harris he's now in the prime of his career, third season going in, and – it's going to be the best offensive line that he's had in front of him. Obviously, I think it's going to help out Kenny Pickett. George Pickens is improving. I think is going to be their star receiver now. Deontay Johnson is also there. So all of their skill position players, I think, are going to be just going to keep improving, and they have now started to really solidify the foundation of that offensive line. And Broderick Jones is just going to be like you mentioned it, and you might have already said it now, but the Trent Williams-esque type of physicality, and he has that potential. And I mean, and he fits that Steelers version of football, that smash mouth, run it down your throat type football. I can see the Steelers doing really well this year.
No, yeah, I mean, if you would have told me that they would have gone 9-8 last year, I'd have been like, yeah, no way, like get out of here. This team is better than they were last year, and they were really competitive in a lot of games down the stretch against good teams. And I think they're on the come up. So I really like what they have going there. Let's get into their defense, which I think is the prime or the bread and butter of this team. And starting off, TJ Watt, one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in the NFL right now. They add Keanu Benton to help out Cam Hayward on that defensive line, right? And all in all, what this team has in terms of a pass rush is scary. And then I think you throw in Joey Porter Jr., right, with Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're going to be playing very aggressive. They're going to be trying to get after the quarterback and make him make a decision quickly. And then they have corners and safeties to go and get the ball. And to me, the story of Joey Porter Jr., but also what he brings to the table, I think fits in this defense really well.
Yeah. That to me, obviously we know how good the front seven is. I mean, we don't have to list off how many sacks that they all had, but it's a lot of double-digit sacks. And would be even more if TJ Watt played more this season if he didn't get hurt. But the question for me, and I think they did a good job addressing the secondary, but losing Terrell Edmonds, then also losing Cam Sutton as well. Just two key positions in the secondary. And then you get Joey Porter Jr., and then I believe they then traded, Did they trade? No, they didn't trade. That was a different team. But they did sign Patrick Peterson as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be can they just be average, be adamant, because I think they're going to be able to do that because of how great this front seven is.
No, yeah, exactly. And one of the things, so like Joey Porter Jr., he has great physical tools, but he still was a little raw, and I think that is why we saw him fall out of the first round. But one of the things that this pass rush is going to be able to do is allow him to use his physical tools to his best ability, and it'll kind of mask some of his imperfections in terms of techniques, because receivers aren't going to have as much time to take advantage of it. And so that plays right into the hands of what Joey Porter Jr. can do. And so I really like what this defense can bring to the table. Let's get into what a successful season would look like for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is kind of hard, right? Because I think they're in a similar boat to like the Patriots, where they have a young quarterback, right? They want to see him progress, but they're in a really, really tough division. And they're in a really, really tough division, and they're in a really, really tough conference as a whole, right? And so I think there's going to be a lot of competition. And even if they miss out on the playoffs, I don't think that is necessarily a failed season for them, because I think that they could definitely improve and still miss out on the playoffs, right? Like they might even have a worse record and still miss out on the playoffs as well. So for me, I want to see a clear improvement in Kenny Pickett, and I want to see this run game really be able to establish itself on offense. And honestly, if the defense just keeps doing what it's doing, I think they'll be good, because they're already top 10 defense in the NFL.
Yeah, so that's why I have a little bit higher expectations from the Steelers as well, just because of kind of how shocked we were. I guess maybe we set the bar so low and then they exceeded it and be like, okay, I think we got to set the bar a little bit higher, or significantly higher. For them. And for that, I'll go with, at minimum, I think they got to be second in the division, because this is a tough division. If you're second in this division, I feel like you can make the playoffs. Just because all these other divisions are going to be beating, they're going to be beating up on each other essentially. And so I think it's going to be tough for one division to have all four teams make it. And if they're second in this division, that means they're clearly better than I'm going to say probably the Browns and the Ravens. And I think they can compete with the Bengals with this team. And with that, I think it will go to show you that, to your point, it will show consistent improvement with Kenny Pickett. Let's be completely honest, if TJ Watt was healthy for the entire year and then they started with Kenny Pickett for a full season, they would have made the playoffs. They lost a lot of games because of Mitch Trubisky, and TJ Watt was not on the field to start the season. So I think this is a playoff team. This is one of the few teams who I could say is probably not a guaranteed division winner, but it's probably a guaranteed playoff spot, if that makes sense. The Ravens, the Ravens, I see the Ravens struggling. I'm not as confident on the Ravens, so to say, but the Steelers I am. I'm confident that the Steelers can make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I think the Steelers have one big advantage over the Ravens, and that is that their defense, I think, is much better.
Absolutely, yeah. And on top of that, too, Mike Tomlin is a god. I mean, the dude's one of the best coaches to ever coach the game of football. I mean, what he did last year with last year's roster is absurd. And now all those young guys got better. And sorry to cut you off. It's like John Harbaugh, I think, is a great coach, but you're right, with the inefficiencies on defense, and they've had, on paper, they had a better offense last year than the Steelers, and they just couldn't. They made the playoffs, but it was they didn't exceed what they should have done on paper, if that makes sense with that team.
And for me, I think you look at the Steelers, and I think they might have overachieved a little bit last year, and that's what I mean. It's like I think they could get better and still go 9-8 and miss out on the playoffs. I just think it's going to be. I think you're going to have 4, 5, maybe 6, 9-8 teams that are all going to be fighting for seed 6 and 7, right? And it's just going to depend on who gets the tiebreakers, right? So that's kind of what I mean. I don't think they're an elite team. I I still think the Bengals might be a little bit better. The Chiefs, Bills, right? I think those teams might be better. I just am not sure on like where they fall in that wild card race, right? So I still think they could have a successful season and miss out on the playoffs, but I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority on that. Let us know down below. Let's go ahead and wrap up the Steelers offseason recap there. Let us know what your favorite offseason addition was down below, as well as if you think the Steelers are a lock for the playoffs. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.